Hello everyone, Rania GoGo here, and this is Magick at GoGo, my course on magic and spiritual transformation. So today we are going to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is connecting with our ancestors. So why would we connect with our ancestors? Well, because it's a complete game changer. I can honestly say that I don't know where I would be today had I not connected with my ancestors. They completely changed my life. My ancestors helped me connect on a deeper level to this planet and helped me find my true purpose. There is so much medicine that comes with connecting with our roots, with our ancestors. It's so powerful. It's extremely powerful because our ancestors are what root us to this physical plane. If you've ever felt disconnected or had a lack of motivation, your ancestors can help you feel reconnected. They can help you find purpose. As we start connecting with our ancestors, a visceral connection to all that is starts blossoming. When we start cultivating relationships with our ancestors, we start receiving blessings and healings that didn't seem possible before. I've had clients who started doing ancestor work and they had many extraordinary breakthroughs in self-healing and family healing and healing relationships. Because once we start connecting with our ancestors, we strengthen our roots to this planet. We feel more grounded, we feel more love. And honestly, like when you start working with your ancestors, they are going to be one of the strongest connections that you have to the spirit realm. And when you start working with the spirit realm, a lot of amazing background shit starts happening to you. You start receiving more blessings and prosperity. You'll start noticing some very interesting changes in your life. Your ancestors may very well be the strongest players in your spirit team. The reason why that is because they are part of your lineage. They are rooting for you because as you succeed, so does your lineage. So first I'm going to bring up some important points about how to connect with your ancestors, how to initiate that contact, what to pay attention to, how to communicate with them. And then I'm going to talk to you about how to cultivate a strong and healthy relationship with our ancestors. And then I'll talk about specific offerings that you can give to your ancestors to help build a stronger bond with them. So now here are some important points on how to navigate working with our ancestors. First, I want to talk about intentions. I know I talk about intentions a lot in my videos, but having intentions with our ancestors is very important. If you haven't started working with your ancestors, it's very important to have clear intentions on who to work with. You want to make sure that you're working with ancestors who are there for your highest and greatest good. In the beginning, you want to be clear that you only wish to make contact with ancestors who can be there for you to support you on your path. Later on, we can get into ancestral healing and how you can heal ancestors who are not necessarily in the light, but for now, just focus on connecting with ancestors who got their shit together, basically. Another important point is to not fear working with our ancestors, and this is extremely important. I've had some people leave some shady comments about, how working with our ancestors is demonic. Oh, your ancestors are just demons. I'm sorry. This is a colonial mindset that I believe was actually brought upon us to have us living in fear, to weaken us. Many, many years ago, most of us had very strong connections with our ancestors, and the colonizers basically didn't want that. They didn't want us to have a strong spiritual bond with anything. Colonizers demonized many forms of spiritual practice because they knew that there was power in spiritual practice, like connecting with our ancestors, and they weren't having any of that shit. I don't necessarily buy into the idea that they wanted to save us by having us connect with their idea of God. When I think about the abuse that our ancestors had endured, And I'm not just talking about my lineage. I'm talking about many people, many different lineages, forcing people to support one idea of God and demonizing people who had strong connections to their own spirituality. That was just a form of control. That wasn't an act of love. So when I see people who are afraid of working with their ancestors, or saying that working with our dearly departed, seeing that as demonic, I just kind of feel bad for them, because I know the value in connecting with my ancestors. I know what they have done for me since I've made that connection, and I've seen the power of connecting my clients and my friends with their ancestors. So it's okay to work with our ancestors or any spirits with caution, but also the last thing you want to do is have a fear of them. You shouldn't have a fear of God. You shouldn't have a fear of your ancestors, and you shouldn't carry any burdens of fear when it comes to working with spirit, because it's very counterproductive. Your ancestors want you to have a loving relationship with them because they love you. They're your fucking family. So don't fear them. Work with them with love and respect, and they will work with you with love and respect. Another important point when it comes to working with our ancestors is to set healthy boundaries. If you're an empath, or if you're psychically sensitive like I am, you'll want to set healthy boundaries, just like you would have healthy boundaries with any relative, with any family. It's up to you to clearly state your intentions of when you want to connect with them, when you want to communicate with them. I know sometimes you'll randomly get messages from your ancestors, which is good, but you don't want to be getting bombarded at night, in the middle of the night, for some bullshit. Your ancestors should allow you to have a good night's sleep without, bothering you, unless it's of utmost importance. Set your boundaries. Sometimes we have ancestors who are not healed, and they can get a little bit needy, and that's okay, but you gotta just set your boundaries. Just like with any family member that might be emotionally dumping on you, if you feel like you can't handle it, just set your boundaries. Just ask them to give you space, and they should respect that. They will respect that. Remember, you have the power to navigate this relationship the way that makes you feel comfortable. If you have an ancestor that for some reason makes you feel uncomfortable, or is asking you to do things that make you feel uncomfortable, just shut that shit down. Ask to work with ancestors, again, that are there for your highest and greatest good. It's very rare that you're going to have ancestors that are like that, but if you do, then you might want to seek a spiritual healer like myself, and we can help move them in a space that is of peace. Ancestral healing, I'll get to that in a minute. It's very important. Another important aspect that I'd like to mention about working with our ancestors is the importance of consistency. Being consistent when working with our ancestors is super important. Just like any relationship you have, you got to be consistent. I can help people initiate contact with their ancestors, but it's up to that person to continue to nourish the relationship with their ancestors. You don't want to just be contacting your ancestors when you want something. Like, any living relative might find that rude if you just call them when you need something. So just, have a good relationship with them. Treat them like you would any respected elder in your family, with love and no fear. I'll talk more about how to cultivate and nourish your relationship with your ancestors in a bit. Another thing that is important when it comes to connecting and working with our ancestors is to pay attention to your dreams. A lot of times our ancestors might find it a lot easier to connect with us in dream space. Sometimes you'll have specific dreams where you know it's your ancestors. When you wake up, write that shit down. Also, if you've been trying to connect with your ancestors and you've been having trouble receiving messages from them, before you go to bed, make it an intention or a prayer to your ancestors to give you some guidance in your dreams. And when you wake up, write down what you dreamed about, if there are any symbols or colors or animals or anything that stood out in the dream. Try to write as much down as possible. That's why I always talk about how it's important to have a dream journal. Working in your dreams is very valuable, y'all. Another thing that's really valuable when it comes to working with our ancestors is to realize that there are so many ways that they can communicate with us. If you've been trying to connect with your ancestors and you feel like you haven't been having much luck, just know that you gotta keep trying. You gotta start paying attention. Sometimes our ancestors talk to us through divine synchronicity. Just say you ask your ancestor a question, and next thing you know, you hear a song that has something that is very much an answer to your question. One of the easiest ways for me to communicate with my ancestors is to light a candle and talk to them as if I was praying. I light a candle, I give them intentions of love or healing or just giving them my love and gratitude, and then I see what happens, you know. They answer us sometimes in blessings. Sometimes you can say, you know what, ancestors, I'm not really happy with my job or where I am in life. I would really need help opening doors to something that is more aligned with what I want to do. And next thing you know, you might get some sort of blessing that guides you towards something that is more aligned with you. So if you've never tried to connect with your ancestors, the easiest thing would be to light a candle and just talk to them and see if you see or hear or feel anything, or pay attention to your dreams. Again, like I said, sometimes they'll connect with you through song. Spotify is eerily prophetic, in my opinion. When you put it on shuffle, you're like, whoa. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to the divine synchronicities when it comes to working with spirit. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Another way to communicate with our ancestors is through writing. You can write messages to them or try to do an automatic writing session with them. Normally, if I do something like that, I would open a circle. So if you want to learn how to open a circle, I can post that video right here, because you want to make sure that you're doing this safe. Do this within a tight container. Any form of divination that I do that's not just a simple lighting of a candle in prayer, I like to open a circle. But that's just my practice. It's not like you're going to be in danger if you try to contact your ancestors without opening a circle. I'm not saying that's necessary. It's just a part of my practice, and it helps me to really tighten up my intention of receiving clear and useful messages. So basically, when it comes to communicating with our ancestors, the best thing we can do is be present and pay attention, because spirit can really try to connect with us in very subtle ways. And the more you are of clear mind, the more that you are present, the more you'll be able to receive clear and valuable messages from the spirit realm. Another thing I want to note about connecting with our ancestors is the importance of combining tradition with what's practical to you. I see a lot of other practitioners preaching that, you know, there are some very stringent rules when it comes to working with our ancestors that can become pretty off-putting to the average person. Everyone's relationship with their ancestor is unique and special. As long as you're trying to connect with them with love and respect, you can't go wrong. Do what works for you. You know, every day doesn't have to be some crazy ritual just to contact your ancestors. It can be as simple as lighting some incense or a candle and being like, hey, I love y'all. I'm sending you good energy, and I'd like to receive good energy back, you know? Don't make it complicated. Working with our ancestors, again, is like working out any relationship. There has to be compromise. Your ancestors want to be connected to you, so if you try to get caught up in like all these weird traditions that don't necessarily make sense to your daily life, then you might miss out on some very valuable, loving connections with your ancestors. The main thing is that they love you, they want you to succeed, and you love them, and you want your lineage to succeed. How you navigate that is truly unique to you personally. So like I said, tradition is awesome. It's great to learn and know tradition. There's a lot of value in that. But at the same time, I wouldn't let anyone's beliefs limit my connection with my ancestors, because that's between me and them. Once we start feeling like working with our ancestors is a fucking chore, then we're doing something wrong. So make it fun, make it loving, make it light. You don't have to follow old stringent traditions if that doesn't feel aligned to you. Another point that I'd like to bring up when it comes to working with our ancestors is to trust your experience and be patient. Nourishing and cultivating a relationship with our ancestors takes time. It takes a lot of love. It takes patience. And it's always going to be a unique experience. You know, follow your heart when it comes to working with your ancestors. It would be a misstep to read the signs that someone else had when it came to working with their ancestors and only feel validated when it comes to what someone else wrote down in a book. Just remember, whatever you experience with your ancestors is valid. You know, enjoy the process. This is a very beautiful relationship that can bring lots of healing, not only for you, but for your family that's living and for family that's to come. It's a beautiful thing. Bottom line is, working with our ancestors is always worth the effort, and that takes time, love, and patience. So now I want to get more in depth about how to cultivate our relationships with our ancestors. So the first thing that I want to mention when it comes to cultivating a relationship with your ancestors is to have a little ancestral altar or a space dedicated to your ancestors. I feel like it's a really great idea to have a space for your ancestors, whether it's a full-on altar or just a little space that you keep clean that may have pictures of your ancestors, or just a little space that's clean where you can place a candle or some incense. It doesn't have to be fancy, but having a place that is dedicated to your ancestors, I think, is very valuable, because once you go to that place, it helps you be present with your ancestors, whatever that looks like to you. Having a nice little space dedicated to your ancestors can help you connect with them regularly. I'm going to put up a more detailed class specifically about creating an ancestral altar. I'll put that here. You'll want to be able to connect with this space regularly. I believe that decorating and cleaning your ancestral altar is an act of love. So get into it. Find a little space, or you can have a whole table dedicated to them. Whatever works for you, you know. As long as you have a space to acknowledge and honor them, you can't go wrong. Another great way to cultivate your relationship with your ancestors is to connect with them regularly. Again, like I said earlier, it's like family. You don't want to just call them when you want something. It's good to keep in touch with them, and having that ancestral altar really helps. You can light candles regularly for them, because candles are very easy. You could just talk to them like you would any living elder, you know, just let them know you love them, that you wish them well, and you can ask them for blessings. You know, it's like any relationship. I talk to my ancestors all the time. I talk to them for guidance. I ask them for blessings, and I give them blessings. So, you know, it's a relationship that you want to cultivate and nourish. Another very powerful way to connect with our ancestors is to research your lineage. You know, I know sometimes it might be tough for some people who don't necessarily know their lineage. In that case, you might benefit from taking a DNA test or asking your ancestors to guide you in the right direction. Many times when I felt stuck, I had asked my ancestors to open doors for me, and boom, the doors are opened, or there's some sort of path that can help me on my way. So you can do that when it comes to learning about your lineage. So if you know your background, you can order books, you can go online and try to build a family tree, whatever works for you. Like, think about your culture and see what resonates with you. Again, this is your process. Whatever works for you, whatever is fun for you. I think it's always fun for people to connect and learn about their their cultures, the good and the bad. The more you do the research, the more you'll start noticing the threads that connect you on a very deep level to your ancestors and to this earth. It's pretty powerful stuff. And when you learn more, again, that will start leading to my next point, something that's very valuable when it comes to connecting with our ancestors and cultivating that relationship with our ancestors, is ancestral healing. To navigate ancestral healing, it's always good to work with a practitioner like myself, because when I work with individuals, it's always very unique, very different, but very powerful. There are very powerful healings that happen within yourself when you heal your ancestors. I've seen people with a lot of anxiety and depression and feelings of disconnection being very deeply healed through ancestral healing. I've seen families who did not get along very well very much benefited from ancestral healing. I worked with one person whose mother had not spoken to her parents in 4 years. We did an ancestral healing, and the next day, this person got a call from their mother, and their mother was like, "Oh, I just started talking to my parents again." This ritual is done for their ancestors, but it trickled down. And it really helped with some gnarly communication gaps. So sometimes if you feel stuck, or if your family feels stuck, ancestral healing might be the key to help remedy whatever is ailing ya when it comes to physical illness, mental illness, emotional illness, communication problems. Ancestral healing is extremely valuable. The heal is real, y'all. Get into it. Ancestral healing is super powerful. Another way to cultivate and nourish your relationship with your ancestors is to strengthen your connection with Earth. The element of Earth, Mother Earth, super important. If you missed my last class, I did a whole video on connecting with Earth and healing your connection with Earth and giving you ways to heal your root, which is also important when it comes to connecting with your ancestors. So connecting with Earth, connecting with nature is really going to help you connect on a deeper level to your ancestors. So you can find that video here. Also, when we connect with our ancestors on a deeper level, then it also helps connect with Earth on a deeper level. Our ancestors and Earth, they go hand in hand. They're very connected. You want to heal all aspects of that. Connecting with Earth and healing your root can help you find the stability that you need to better manifest and find purpose on this physical plane. Another way to nourish our relationship with our ancestors is to go back to your roots. This might be tough for a lot of people, especially now. Traveling is hard, but if you can, go back to visit where you came from, where your roots were developed, the places where the bones of your ancestors reside. I think that's something that's very powerful. There's actually nothing like it. To walk the areas that your ancestors walked, to visit the churches that your ancestors may have visited. Again, that journey is unique to you, so whatever feels right, go for it. It's really exciting to just go down the rabbit hole of ancestral connection. Another way to nourish your relationship with your ancestors is dance and music. Music and dance is an extremely powerful way to connect with our ancestors. If you can find out what kind of music they listen to and dance to it, that's great. Do it with intention. Do it to send gratitude and love to your ancestors, and I'm sure you'll receive blessings for that. When we dance with our ancestors, they dance with us. So it's a very powerful way of showing love and gratitude, and it's a very beautiful way to connect. So now I want to get more into offerings for our ancestors. Regular offerings are extremely valuable when it comes to nourishing our relationships with our ancestors. These offerings can be placed on your ancestral altar or poured onto the ground or buried, whatever feels right to you. But it's just good to give regular offerings to our ancestors, especially if we want to be receiving blessings from our ancestors. So the first offering I'd like to talk about is libations, drink. I regularly give my ancestors hard liquor like rum, tequila, bourbon. I tend to buy hard liquor because it doesn't spoil so easily, and it's something that they tend to specifically ask for. When I'm at the market, I buy bottles specifically for my ancestors, and they always tend to want hard liquors. Really, it's up to you what you want to give to your ancestors. I also sometimes give them coffee or teas with specific herbs that they ask for, herbs that are aligned with my intentions when working with my ancestors. So say if I want more prosperity or power, I can add cinnamon to these things. Make it special. It's up to you how you want to serve libations to your ancestors. So what I normally do is I put the libations on the altar space for about 1 to 3 days. You don't necessarily want it to get all moldy and gross, so don't leave it out for too long. Once it's been sitting on the altar long enough, you can go outside and pour the libations onto the earth. Also, if you don't have an ancestral altar, you can go outside and just pour any libations as an offering to your ancestors. Pour it directly onto the earth. It's probably one of the easiest offerings that you can give to your ancestors, and they love it. You can even do this if you're not home, if you have a nice little beverage that you would like to share with your ancestors, just pour one for the homies. However you want to do it, libations are a great way to show love and give offerings to our ancestors and dearly departed. Food is another beautiful offering. To me, the importance of giving food as an offering to our ancestors is the symbology of sharing a meal with family. It's an act of love, sharing a meal, sharing something that is very grounding, because consuming food is very grounding. So when you share food as an offering to your ancestors, I think it's one of the most beautiful ways to connect with them. You can place a little plate of food on the ancestral altar overnight or for a short period of time. You want to be mindful of pests. Or if you're eating at your dinner table, you can always just set aside a plate for them, just a little extra little bits of whatever you're eating to give to your ancestors, whatever works for you. Also, sometimes I put candies out, little candies that my grandpa used to like, or cookies, things like that. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It's just a way to honor them. Usually when I give offerings, I ask for blessings or set intentions or ask for healings, or I give the food as a form of gratitude for the blessings that are to come. You don't have to be specific with what you want, but if you are, that's always good too. I also want to note, because I've seen other practitioners, spiritualists talk about how it's important to always cook meals that your ancestors ate. I don't really subscribe to that. While it's great to every now and then make a meal for your ancestors, I know for some people that might not be possible. It might be hard to find the ingredients. Because I do it regularly, it's an act of love, of sharing. Every now and then I'll cook a meal specifically for them, but I don't see that it's of utmost importance to only make food for your ancestors, the food that they ate. I feel like that can become off-putting for some people, because some of y'all ancestors ate some weird shit or some hard to obtain things. So while every now and then I'll cook a meal specifically of the foods of my ancestors, because there is value in that. There is value in tasting the foods that your ancestors ate, because it kind of takes you there. There is value in that, but also if you're going to feed your ancestors and you feel like you can only feed them what they ate, then you're limiting yourself and you're limiting the offerings and the sharing that can be involved when it comes to food. I personally am vegan, and my ancestors were not, and they're not picky. I share with them what I make, and it's an act of love to share what I make. And they're not like, hey, I need this, my ancestors are pretty chill, and I'm sure your ancestors are too. Every now and then it's great to partake in the foods that your ancestors ate. And if you still eat the foods that your ancestors ate, great. You know what I mean? Again, don't limit yourself by someone else's idea of how we should be working with our ancestors. I think about our ancestors, and when they were venerating their ancestors, I'm sure they shared with their ancestors what was practical. The bounties that they consumed at the time were shared with their ancestors. I don't think that our ancestors were like, oh, I guess I can't find fish, so I'm not feeding my ancestors. They fed them what was available. With that being said, there is medicine in consuming the foods of our ancestors, especially the plant medicines of our ancestors. I know my ancestors loved moringa, malunggay, which is a tree that I grow now, and I consume that tree, that plant, and I also give it as offerings to my ancestors. When you think about the foods that nourish the blood and the bones of your ancestors, there can be great comfort and healing found in consuming the ingredients that our ancestors once ate. So think of the plant medicines of your ancestors. For me, it's ginger and other plants. For y'all, it could be something else. So do the research. Another great and very easy offering to find for your ancestors is candles. The light of the candle is very powerful and very valuable when it comes to leaving offerings for your ancestors, for spirit, for deity. I burn candles all the time. I make candles. There's just something very important about lighting a candle for your ancestors, and it just helps send your intentions to spirit. You can light any candles for your ancestors. You can light any colored candles because colors can correlate with the intentions that you want to send to your ancestors. So you can light a green or gold candle for prosperity, or red for strength and power. You know, whatever feels right to you, but you can't go wrong when it comes to a white candle. I tend to burn more white candles for my ancestors. I make specific candles with certain herbs and flowers that are known for venerating ancestors, and I usually throw in a little tobacco because it helps send the messages to spirit. It's a really good offering to spirit. So all of my ancestral candles have specific oils and herbs and tobacco in it. But really, you can light any candle because what's most important is your intention. So whatever your intention is, if it's to send love or healing or to ask for blessings, light a white candle or any candle and you can't go wrong. Another great offering is incense. You know, what kind of incense do your ancestors like? Also, what kind of incense do you enjoy the smell of? I think that the most important thing is the element of air and fire combined to make smoke. I think that helps send your intentions to spirit. Smoke is very valuable when it comes to working with your ancestors and working with spirit. It helps clear air, it helps move energy. I love lighting incense. Some very valuable things that I burn for my ancestors is always tobacco. I feel like even when I work with other people's ancestors, before I do readings, I give offerings to ancestors, and tobacco is usually the most requested by my ancestors and other ancestors. So I grow my own tobacco and light it up. It's a really great offering to spirit. But also think about what your ancestors enjoyed. Sandalwood is great. I burn, for my lineage, there's guava leaf. But really, whatever you have, just think about what you can find. Also think about what your ancestors burned, because like I said, if you can burn the incense that your ancestors once burned, it can really take you somewhere. You know, the power of scent is very valuable. That being said, if you don't like the smell of the things that your ancestors burned, don't burn it, because anything you burn for your ancestors would be greatly appreciated as long as you're doing it with love. Your feelings and your intentions are very important when it comes to giving offerings. So if you're burning something and you're like, I don't like the smell of it, feeling all kinds of weird ways about it, then it's probably counterintuitive. Find something that works for you. If you don't like the smell of burning something, or if you don't like the smell of smoke, you can always burn incense outside or just stick with candles because it's easier. I also keep these flower and herb burn bundles from Love and Leaf Boutique. They smell beautiful without being burnt. So the plant medicine is there. It could just be a decoration for your ancestral altars, or you can burn it and it works as an incense. So get into it. If you like beautiful burn bundles, Love and Leaf Boutique, my really great friend, has a little shop. She sources these materials ethically. So it's good to support small shops like that when it comes to sourcing materials for your altar spaces. Another offering that I like to place on my ancestral altar are flesh flowers. Flesh flowers made from real flesh. Another great offering that I like to give to my ancestors is fresh flowers. It really brightens up the space. It's only like $5 if you just want to grab a little bundle from the market. I don't buy them all the time because I enjoy having the dried flowers. They last a lot longer, but when I do, it's just a nice offering to give every now and then if you want extra blessings or if you want to send extra love. You can't go wrong with fresh flowers in a vase of water, which is the element of earth and water. So those are just some of the offerings. Oh, wait. I wanted to mention about ancestor money because I get questions about this. I get a lot of questions about ancestor money. My opinion about ancestor money is it's not necessary. I've seen practitioners talking about how it's really important to buy blessed ancestor money. I don't know. Do what you want. No shade on people who are selling ancestor money to burn to the ancestors. I'm sure it can work, but at the same time, I think it's almost the same as burning incense. It's also the same as writing a petition, writing numbers on a piece of paper and burning it with the intention of receiving blessings from your ancestors. I don't think ancestor money is necessary, and I've seen some of the attitudes of people who sell ancestor money about how it's like the only way to get real blessings, and I don't know, it feels scammy, but I'm sure it could work. But I think the reason why it works is because you have your own intentions. You're burning this money with numbers on it with good intentions. So if you were to put those intentions into burning any incense or any piece of paper or even a bay leaf that you get a shit ton of them at the grocery store and write something on a bay leaf and burn it, it could be just as powerful and valuable as the ancestor money that you can buy on Etsy or wherever. But like I said, no shade. I'm sure it could work for some people. My opinion is it's not necessary. Like most things, most things aren't necessary. It's what you like. Follow your heart and make sure that you know that your intentions are more valuable than any tools that you could ever purchase. You are the magic, okay? So those are just some examples of offerings that you can give to your ancestors in order to receive blessings or to send love and gratitude to your ancestors. The offerings that you give to your ancestors is not limited to what I just said. It's up to you to explore all of that and find what resonates with you and your ancestors, because like I said, everyone's relationship with their ancestors is completely unique, valid, and valuable. So I'm excited for y'all to go down the rabbit hole of connecting with your ancestors in order to receive love and blessings, and also to help heal your lineage, whatever resonates with you. This is your relationship. My intention is that you can find the true value in working with your ancestors, the extra support, the love, the healing. It's a beautiful thing, so I really hope that you can find something valuable in working with your ancestors. If you head over to magickagogo.com, that's MAGICKAUGOGO.com, you can find a free PDF that has a lot more notes about our ancestors and other classes that I've been teaching about magic and spiritual transformation. You can also donate to me at magickagogo.com. If you find any of these classes valuable, I greatly appreciate any donations. You can also book a reading, ancestral healing, or clearing of your energy. I do a lot of energy work at magicagogo.com. So in my next class, I'll be showing you how to create an ancestral altar and different ways to create different altars. In the class after that, I will be doing live Q&A and performing a live ritual for some ancestral healing and connection. So thank you so much for joining me, sending so much love and blessings to you and your ancestors. Take care.